thank you for braving the weather a little bit. 3:30 this morning, I thought it was going to wash us out, but fortunately, that's not happened. I do want to begin with some introductions of folks that are here, and then there are a number of people we want to ask to make a few remarks. Want to acknowledge Lima City Council members, Teresa Adams, Jesse Lowe, Todd Gordon, Derry Glenn, Sam McLean, and Ann Miles. Thanks for being here. Also representing the Lima City Schools, we have Dennis Williams, Michael Lay, and Lee, and Alicia Anderson. And representing the board at LCC, we have Scott Koenig, Jeff Orovitz, and Father Dave Ross. So thank you for being here. What you have up front is actually several editions of illustrations. These illustrations here, my right and left, were done some 15, 16 years ago when the Lima City Schools were actively engaged in efforts to preserve the stadium. And the city asked then the architect that was involved, Chuck Ditto, to actually conceive for us what this site might look like if all the houses along this section of Bellefontaine Avenue were removed and the hill was carved down. And that gave us our first sense of perspective about what would happen with this site. And it really was, it became a part of our imaginations, and it was taking place actually before the Lima City School Board moved senior high to its new site. So there's been consideration of this piece of geography for some time and how it fit, particularly on this main entrance to our community. Along about that time, actually, Mr. Huffman, who was then the president of City Council, he and I chatted about it and decided that maybe there was a way that we could jumpstart a process. And we approached Mr. Leo Hawk about the possibility of becoming engaged to acquire the property along this site. And he said yes. He said yes very readily. And as he has in many things in our community, he brought real energy and resources to that task. And we thank him for that, because without Leo and his family and the foundation, the R. Hale Family Foundation, we wouldn't be here today, thinking about what this piece of geography will be in future years and its importance for highlighting the heritage of the Lima Stadium and its use over the many decades that it has existed. What I'd like to do before we have some of the others speak who are here, I'd like to ask Kirk Niemeyer, the city engineer, to step up and give us a description of what this Lima Stadium Park will encompass and its various design features. Kirk?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to talk today about the park, and I also want to talk about the coordination with the other city projects in this general area. We've got the Ottawa River bike path down just behind us. We've got Lincoln Park, longtime city park. We've got this project, the Stadium Park project, and we've got the Indiana-Ohio Railroad grade separation that's been going on for the last 10, 15 years. And so we've got 4 big areas here. We've got to make sure that those all interface well with one another. The grade separation project, we're currently in detailed design and that includes underpass at Elm Street and a roundabout, single-lane roundabout out here at the 5-point intersection. So that project shaped the south part of the project here. And so we've got two major parks. We've got a roadway project, and we've got the Ottawa River Bike Path. So we have to make sure that those all tie together nicely. So my part of the project now is to, along with the rest of the city engineering staff, is to design the park. And what that includes is where you're standing now will probably be anywhere from 5 to 8 feet lower than what it is currently. So we'll be able to see the activities when you drive into Lima, be able to see those at the stadium. There'll be a perimeter fence, iron fence, black iron fence with masonry columns surrounding the park. We'll have a water feature, splash pad out in the center. The restroom facility will serve both the stadium itself as well as the park. So we had to add additional restrooms. For that, the restroom facility will also have the mechanical system for the splash pad, and most likely it will be. Topic just came up this morning: should it be heated or not heated? And with the early track season, track events in the early spring, and of course the stadium holding playoff games in the fall, probably most likely be heated. But along with that, we'll have walkways throughout, and the walkways will be lined with lighting, most likely LED type lighting. There'll be a smaller fence and a graded berm along the track, so you can actually sit in the grass area and watch the game. Landscaping will be trees and low maintenance landscaping. Our Parks Department does an excellent job of maintaining the 300 acres that we have, but we want to keep things looking good but not high maintenance. Coordination with the other projects, there is grade separation will be gravity flow storm sewer, so we'll have a 42-inch storm sewer pipe that will go right through the park. So with the construction of the park slated to begin next year, we obviously have to coordinate that so we don't disturb the park once it's completed, because the grade separation project will follow thereafter. So that is a 30-foot cut right from where we're standing right now. So we got to figure out a way to get that in without disturbing the new park in the area or in the future. Through the various other projects that we've done in this area, for instance, the North Street Bridge, when we constructed the North Street Bridge, we tried to match that to the Lima Senior High School with color. So this park will do our best to tie in to the area aesthetics as much as we can. Park signage, also be park signage up front. There'll probably be some sort of ornate entrance off the park right out here at the proposed roundabout. Lastly, the scoreboard where you see it now, of course, Lima City Schools in Lima Central Catholic are moving that to the north end of the park, so that vision obstruction will go away. So a lot of coordination, and so the fun work begins now, and we're looking forward to it. So thank you.
Thank you, Kirk. Thank you very much. This morning we are pleased to have the President of the Ohio Senate, Keith Faber, here. And Senator Faber, you want to come up and make a few remarks? Senator Faber was instrumental in the budget proposal that then Representative Huffman brought forward regarding the park.
Thank you. I just want to briefly, and I know Matt's going to say a few words here in a minute, but I want to briefly thank Matt for his leadership on this issue. Matt was a great state representative. I think he'll be a great leader in the future, not too far in the future. and continue to represent this area. It's been great to work with Matt. The way we did capital budget requests were pretty straightforward. We talked to local community leaders, and the things that were local community leaders' priorities were the things we made our priorities. And so it was my honor to work with Matt and the mayor and the other community leaders to make this park possible. And so the $1.5 million, roughly $1.5 million that the state's providing for this park are one of the things we do in Ohio supporting local governments. It's one of the ways we promote quality of life and local community activities by the state issuing those bonds, and then the state doing the debt service to completely pay them off over the future. So on behalf of the Senate and the entire General Assembly, it is my honor to come here and help make sure this project moves forward in a successful fashion. I think Representative Cupp's going to have a chance to say something here in just a second. But it is a pleasure to work with such good leaders like Bob Cupp and Matt Huffman and frankly, Mayor Berger. Mayor, your leadership on this is also not to go unnoticed. You've been kind of quiet and understated, as you usually are, but without the concept to move this forward on the entry of your fine city, you would not have what you're going to have. And I look forward to having the rail grade roundabout and this entire park to come back and see it when it's all done, and maybe bring my kids to play on the splash pad. Thanks a lot, Mayor.
Thanks, Senator. Appreciate it very much. There are a couple of folks in the audience that wouldn't agree with your characterization of me as understated, but that's all right. I do want to bring up Representative Bob Cupp, who for some remarks about the park and its importance.
Thank you, flamboyant Mayor David Berger. It's a pleasure to be here and join with all of you. And actually, I didn't have anything to do with this, so I just want to compliment and thank those who did. I think one of the things that really stands out is how so many over so long really stuck to the idea that you could make an improvement like this. And people working together can really design something that is going to be, it appears to be a really beautiful part as people come and go from Lima and Allen County. And so I think it's a compliment to all of those who really worked hard for so many years, those who have brought the resources to the table so that the whole community is going to be able to enjoy something that's really, really fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Former Representative Matt Huffman, please come up. And Matt, as I mentioned earlier in my opening remarks, was part of the originating team that conceived of the park and its general orientation here on the entrance to the city. And I know he has been really a passionate person looking to at the nitty-gritty of the property acquisition and ultimately the funding for the park construction itself. Matt, thanks.
Thanks. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, understated, Keith. Come on. 15 years on City Council with Teresa Adams and all my friends, but you can be understated when necessary, I think. I wanted to give a little, and thanks to everybody for coming out here today. It's wonderful to see a nice group to come out and help dedicate the beginning of the construction here. We started working on this project in 2004, I think it was, and this really, I think, was the mayor, including me as one of the ideas guys here. It's a great idea, but I think the mayor deserves really all of the credit. He came to Mr. Hawk, Leo Hawk, and Leo came to me and said, what can we do to get this done? And we entered into, adopted the services of one Tim Stanford, ace real estate agent, to begin acquiring these houses. Some of you, probably just about everyone here remembers, there were about 14 houses, I think 11 on this side, and then 3 on the other side of the street. And there were a couple of them that were empty, that were pretty easy to acquire. And as we went along, and I think for just a couple $1,000s, and the price began to go up as we moved along. And we didn't want to obviously let people know what we were doing for price purposes. So in one of the poorer moves of my legal career, we began into the landlord-tenant business. And I distinctly remember the second day in my office in the General Assembly, January of 2007, setting up new things in my office. I got a call from Tim. This is 3 years after we started the project, and said, "I really hate to be calling you, but one of our houses blew up." And fortunately, very fortunately, no one was seriously injured. And it was at that moment we decided we were no longer in the landlord-tenant business. And we continued to acquire properties. The last property, actually, the lady was going to sell us for the fair market value, essentially. And her son, who lived in Washington, decided that Mom needed to make a lot more money. And I think we ended up paying $120,000 for that, which is probably the most expensive sale along this street at the time. That was a pretty serious endeavor over the course of about 6 or 7 years, purchasing these properties and then paying to have them demolished. And I sort of give you all that rendition of what went on, because this isn't simply a matter of somebody writing a check and donating it. This was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, particularly by Leo Hawk, over the past now 11 years to bring the project this far forward. And I'm not sure, frankly, that there are a lot of people who have the means, or a lot of people who don't have the means, who would be willing to see that through. There are a lot of community-minded individuals, and there are a lot of people of means. And unfortunately, one of the things that happens when someone feels like they have made it is they leave, and they move to Florida, or they move to South Carolina, or they move to Arizona, and they don't stay here in the community and try to improve it. I know probably everyone here believes that you need to love where you live. I know the mayor does, and I do. But that's not true for everyone. And certainly Mr. Hawk and many members of his family could move wherever they wanted to. But they're staying here in Lima, loving where they live, and trying to improve the community. And that's really what this project is all about. It's trying to make Lima a better place. This property actually is owned by a foundation that you don't hear about all the time, because they're not beating their chest and trying to get on TV and picture in the paper, handing out checks like a lot of other foundations that you see from time to time. It's the R. Hale Family Foundation, and their mission statement is that the foundation supports philanthropic and religious initiatives that personally impact the lives of families and children through family issues, health issues, and education at all levels. The funds will be placed primarily in communities where American Trim does business, and in communities where American Trim shareholders reside. And thankfully, one of those places is Lima, Ohio. And we, as you've seen over the past 40 or 50 years, a lot of locally owned companies get purchased by companies from out of town, and we don't have the same philanthropic bent as the people who live here. And I think that's why we're very lucky. For my part, I will tell you, as far as the capital budget, it's good when your state senator is the president of the Senate. And Keith was only up here for a few minutes, but his the way that he was able to get this done really was important for the project to go forward. I also should note that Keith was the state senator when we acquired some funds for the stadium behind us to be able to get a new field. And so this is part of, I think, Senator Faber's longtime commitment to Allen County as our state senator. And that will be sorely missed when Keith moves on to greater things. So whoever comes after you, I know they're just not going to be able to match what you've done, Keith. So we'll see about that. Laugh line. Thank you, Bob. Bob Cupp's the only one who got that, so that's all right. But I want to thank the mayor for his work in this. This is going forward. Well, I hopefully have a year from now a beautiful dedication ceremony, and I want to thank everybody here for loving where they live. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Matt. One of the things that isn't yet in the design, but which is intended, is that there will be a monument that will be not quite somewhere out here that will depict, will recite the historical use of this stadium as the home to 5 separate schools, the home field for 5 separate schools. And representing 2 of those schools here today, we have Walt Klimaski. Walt, you want to come up? And also Jill Ackerman. Please come up. And if you want to make a few remarks. Sure.
First off, getting to know the mayor and work with the mayor over the last several months has been outstanding, and it's really been fun. And I think those who have said his leadership is something to behold. The mayor has really, really brought this whole thing together, and with the Hawk family, who not only supports this but has supported Lima Central Catholic for so many years, we're Matt said it right. We're very thankful and very hopeful for the future of Lima. And I'm not from Lima, but I tell you what, having been in Lima now for almost 5 years, I love this town. And I think this is just a great place to raise a family. And this is just going to add, this park is just going to add something very special to the city. And as you come into the city, boy, it is going to be something to behold. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. And on behalf of the Lima City Schools, we want to extend our gratitude to the Hawk family and the R. Hale Foundation, to the mayor for orchestrating everything, to everybody in this community for their support of this park. We know that tradition is very important, and we believe that those 5 schools were very important to a lot of people. So to memorialize Lima Stadium with a monument in a park means a lot to this community. And as a person who not only works here but lives here, it says a lot about our community coming together and working for one cause. So again, we thank you very much, and we're excited about what's to come for us.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you very much. I want to acknowledge a few other folks. I want to say that I believe it's the Lepo brothers who have been retained to actually do the design of the monument, and it'll obviously be its unveiling will be part of the dedication of the park when it's all completed in a year. I think I mentioned earlier that the original concept drawings were done by Chuck Ditto. Chuck was unable to be here today, but we do want to thank him for his original vision for the site. I also want to acknowledge 3 individuals who were really instrumental in saving the Lima Stadium some 15, 18 years ago, that being Jack Sane, Dick Smallwood, and Chester Carey. All 3 individuals who were really important to the renewal that took place here at this stadium. And lastly, what I'd like to do is acknowledge the city employees who are going to be involved in carrying out the work of this effort. That being Kirk Niemeyer, the city engineer, Eric Bontrager, who's the assistant city engineer, Jim Morrissey, the civil engineer with the city, Joe Gearing, our stormwater manager, Rick Stolley, the director of parks, Jim Moscato, the parks forestry supervisor, and Brett Ream, our recreation supervisor. They will all be involved in the detail of what ultimately gets built here, both from the standpoint of what gets factored into all aspects of how do we maintain something, how do we work various aspects of it, so that you have some thought about why are we putting the fence up around the site. Whoever has events at the stadium will have control of the site. So there will be some events, for example, where the sponsor of that event, maybe it's a track and field event, will want teams gathered here in this space, as they often do with their tents and all the kids gathering from the various schools. There will also be times when nobody's going to want anybody in this space because it'll be a ticketed event just at the stadium. So that ability to manage, close the site, open the site, use the site will all be factored into ultimately what gets designed here. Lastly, I do want to also add a word of thanks, as Matt did, for the work that Tim Stanford did. I've worked with Tim on a number of projects, including the site down on South Main Street, the site acquisition work that was done for the high school, as well as this. And it's he too is a person who loves this town and has spent himself to make things happen. So thank you, Tim. I believe that's all that we have for today. I do want to thank you all for being, oh, no, there is one more thing. We do have these plaques put together, which will be presented to the R. Hale Family Foundation. We really want to say in no uncertain terms that this would not have happened but for the generosity and the vision and the general sense of energy that Leo Hawk brought to this endeavor. It simply wouldn't have happened. So, Jeff and Jan, please tell Leo how much we appreciate his generosity and the Family Foundation and its role in this project as well. Very much appreciated. Make sure we've got two, so let me grab the other two. I'm only one. I'm not sure shooting is small. That might be in the new one. Thank you again. Good. Well, thank you all. We appreciate you being here and taking the time out to appreciate the day with us.